3 News Now this week.
That's right, Jenny. Halloween is just a few days away, but this year it's looking like it's going to be a cold one and maybe even filled with some snow. We spoke with some local store employees on how they are helping residents and trick-or-treaters prepare. Get ready, folks. With snowfall expected this week and even some ice, it may be time to start preparing for winter weather. The Westlake Ace hardware store on 55th and Center said last year the demand for ice melt was so high they couldn't keep up.
We couldn't keep it in stock fast enough because customers were needing it on a regular basis because of the amount of snow and freezing weather that we had.
They say demand is already high for this year, even though there's no snow yet.
Get it while you can and prepare it properly and just be ready when the snow hits.
And Halloween is this Thursday. That may put a dent in your costume plans. If you haven't got your costume already, you may want to layer up.
A lot of the costumes that are made of thin material, so they aren't really warm at all. But I always try to suggest to parents to maybe buy a size bigger because that way they can put a sweatshirt on or a hoodie on underneath of it.
So buy up a size and add layers underneath the costume. If you're wearing a mask, you can even get away with a hat underneath without affecting the appearance. So even if you're 11 from Stranger Things or Cinderella or a sumo wrestler, there's ways you can stay warm.
Be safe when you're out there.
If you have travel plans for Halloween, remember that as cold weather moves in, so do dangerous driving conditions.
Especially when you're dealing with that first snowstorm, is people just forget about snow and ice and how you have to change your driving habits for that.
Nebraska State Patrol wants to remind everyone of some safe driving tips in the winter.
Always wear your seatbelt. Make sure you always travel a safe following distance, and just lay off the cruise control too.
You can run, but you can't hide from the spookiest thing of all, winter. Again, those Halloween temperatures are going to be chilly, so make sure you're checking in on the forecast for your trick-or-treating plans. For now, reporting in Omaha, Rudolph Sinaida.
I was actually sitting in a car just a few feet away from when I'm standing when I looked up and saw the police begin to arrest the suspect just in these bushes behind me and ultimately walk him over to a police car. That arrest lessened the anxiety of many that live in this quiet neighborhood. Now, dozens of police officers, some with rifles, walked through the neighborhood for a couple hours beforehand, searching for a robbery suspect. One resident I spoke with said he was late getting back to work because he was nervous to leave his house. But eventually, he witnessed police make that arrest in the bushes right in a neighbor's front yard.
I was looking out my window, and I seen the cops grab something and grab it, and then I seen them where he was laying on the ground.
No shots were fired during the robbery or during the arrest of either suspect. And it was also an all-hands-on-deck effort by law enforcement. Omaha Police Department leading the search, but they had help. Douglas County Sheriff assisting, as well as the Nebraska State Patrol. They also had a police helicopter searching the entire area. Reporting live in Omaha, John Kemper, 3 News Now.
Imagine closing up shop and the last customer of the day walks up to the counter, points a gun at you and says, quote, "I'm going to kill you." That's exactly what happened to a liquor store employee when shots were fired in a string of robberies on Sunday night.
He said, "I'm not playing. I don't want to kill you."
A store clerk who didn't want to be shown on camera says just after 7 o'clock Sunday night, he was closing down Tobacco Road Discount when he heard a bang on the window.
He jumped over to the other side and take out the gun out of the pocket and start asking me for the money.
That's when the first shot was fired.
I tried to cover myself and hide anywhere to protect myself.
The suspect took money from the till and then demanded the employee to open the safe.
My mind was in blank. I was thinking it was my last day for living,
After stealing $2,200 and a few packs of cigarettes, the suspect fired his gun 3 more times in the store and then took off.
I'm shot. I was alone in the street, alone too, parking alone, so man, I was thinking this is my last day.
The suspect, shown here in surveillance camera, robbed a total of 4 locations on Sunday night. The first robbery took place at the Come and Go at 1819 North 72nd Street, where he demanded money. Just moments later, at 7:13, officers responded to the Family Dollar at Northwest Radial, where he threatened to shoot an employee if they wouldn't hand over money. Not long after this, shots were fired and money was taken from Tobacco Road Discounts at 1414 North Saddle Creek Road. And within minutes, shots were fired again at Buc-ee's at 60th and Center, where the suspect took money and again fled the scene. At this point, Omaha police believe all of these robberies are connected.
It all kind of fell into place quite quickly. It's just, a description of the suspect, the actions that suspect takes. They just look at the similarities, and in this case, like I said, they all started to become clear quickly that these were related.
No arrests have been made in the string of robberies in Omaha. However, police are asking if you have any information to call Crime Stoppers at 402-444-7867. Live in Omaha, Kent Lutzen, 3 News Now.
It can happen in the blink of an eye.
And when you least expect it,
as a deer in headlights can take on a literal meaning.
Now, this is the time of year when deer are so active. This is their period called the rut. This is their breeding time.
Deer are low light or nighttime animals, and with sunlight not sticking around as long, it can cause them to end up in places they're not used to.
When their hooves hit pavement, they become extremely disoriented. It is not a natural thing for them.
As that unnatural thing can be a recipe for disaster.
You really need to be on the lookout for deer, not only in the countryside, but also in the metro.
Greg Wagner with the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission warns drivers to pay even more attention this time of year.
Especially driving during rush hour periods around sunrise, around sunset. Deer are coming and going, and also at nighttime.
Back in 2017, more than 90 deer were hit on Douglas County roadways. And because they don't have a crosswalk like this, it's on drivers behind the wheel to pay attention to a few things that could potentially save their lives.
Turn your lights on, your high beams on early in the morning and late at night.
Captain Wayne Hudson with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office says deer's eyes will reflect in your car lights, warning you they're close by.
Be very cautious, start slowing down, because what they tend to do is once you get close, they'll run out in front of you.
And if there's one deer, count on there being a few more numbers right behind.
If you see one deer, know and understand more than likely there's going to be 2 or 3 more, so don't be distracted once you see the first one.
Other tips to keep in mind is no excessive speeding so you can stop easier, and to drive slow around waterways that intersect with roadways because that's where deer tend to be. And if you're about to hit one, it's best not to swerve.
We've had individuals unfortunately perish where they've hit another vehicle, been involved in a rollover, went down through the ditch, through a fence. It's when we have swerving that really adds to the potential for fatalities with deer.
Wagner says you never know how deer are going to react. It's just their nature. That's why it's best for you to control the situation from behind the wheel as much as possible. In Douglas County, John Madden, 3 News Now.
Picture of myself and Dr. Cerventi outside the cancer center.
In August, Dr. Luke Nordquist was called to help when he visited Mount Kilimanjaro and saw their cancer center.
I think something brought us together. Maybe it's spiritual. There's a reason I went to Kilimanjaro, there's a reason we met, and there's a reason we've bonded, and I just see such a need.
In the United States, many cancers can be treated due to early detection, which Dr. Nordquist learned is an obstacle in Tanzania.
80% come with locally advanced and metastatic disease. Most of our patients do not know about cancer, do not know the early signs and symptoms, and this is an opportunity for us to go to the community and teach.
In addition to teaching people about the early signs of cancer, they want to build a hostel near the Kilimanjaro Christian Medical Center for patients to stay. Many patients travel long distances, and it's not easy for them to get to treatment.
A hostel dedicated to patients diagnosed with cancer would offer optimal care, but will also enable the patients to finish their treatment.
Dr. Nordquist is hoping to help raise $250,000 to build the hostel in a part of the world he now has a special connection with. In Omaha, Stephanie Nolte, 3 News Now.
I'm outside the Family Dollar on Northwest Radio Highway, one of the 4 sites hit during the string of robberies on Sunday. I talked earlier today with the cashier at the store. She said someone came up from behind her, kicked down the door, stole the money, and then showed a handgun, but did not fire off any shots before leaving. A string of violent robberies left convenience store workers looking for answers. On Tuesday, officers announced they arrested 2 teens, one pictured in security footage here, in connection with Sunday's crimes.
It can be concerning. We think of Omaha as a very safe community, so anytime you have violent crime come up, that can be startling. Fortunately, in this case, this was, a couple suspects doing several of the robberies, so now that they're arrested, we should feel safer.
The Family Dollar was one of 4 sites hit. Buc-ee's employees at 60th and Center wouldn't talk on camera, but said they're pleased the suspects were caught. The crime left a bullet hole in the roof above the cash register. A second bullet ricocheted off the ceiling and fortunately didn't hit a bystander.
Man, I'm scared.
On Monday, 3 News Now talked with the clerk at the Tobacco Road discount site which got robbed. He didn't want to be on camera. He told us a similar story.
I give you the money, opened the safe box, he started shooting the wall and everywhere. So I told you what, I'm scared.
The 2 suspects are currently at the Douglas County Youth Center. Officers said the age of the suspects is startling.
We don't obviously expect violent crime from juveniles. Juveniles, we expect more to do, the minor status offenses, things like that. So it is concerning when a juvenile is escalating to using violence, using firearms and weapons.
The cashier at the Family Dollar wanted to remain anonymous because the emotions from the robbery are still too strong for her. She said that she's happy that these suspects are now off the streets. We'll have more on this story as it continues to develop. Reporting on Northwest Radio Highway in Omaha, Phil Bergman, 3 News Now.
Flood stage river levels on the Missouri are still impacting homeowners, especially in Council Bluffs. Homeowners are signing up to find out what kind of buyout they can get, and there's only a few days left. Senior reporter Jake Wasikowski is live in Pottawatomie County with the information you need to know. Jake?
Well, Jenny, here in the west end, the water didn't come over the levee. It actually came from the ground up. As you can see, people still pumping out water as it just lines the streets here. Some wonder if it's time to pack it up and move out.
For a while, it was pumping just as fast as that pump could go.
Arlen Arnold has lived in the west end of Council Bluffs for 50 years. What happened in 2011 and again in March is tearing up his house. Water seeping through the ground.
Yeah, I'm tired of it. Real tired.
7 months later, he's still pumping water.
I told her, the wife, I said, if they can't get something going here with this river, get it down, I says, we may just move out.
Arnold says he'll likely fill out the buyout interest form for flood victims. So far, 176 property owners in Pottawatomie County have filled them out in the West End, Oakland, and Northwest Pottawatomie County. Emergency managers say people don't have to be set to sell, just interested in getting the process going.
Right now, if they even think they're somewhat interested, they need to fill out that interest survey because we want to make sure that we've got to as close to a real budget as possible. That way we don't have to leave anybody out that may qualify and be interested.
The county will then be able to form a dollar amount to participate in the program. There's no set amount of damage a home must sustain. Homes in Northwest Pottawatomie County may have taken major flood damage, while Council Bluffs homes likely had ground pressure force water into basements, many still dealing with it. Arnold says he can tell his basement floor is hollow underneath from all the water.
It would be of interest to me, and what I'm curious is what kind of a buyout they would go. Is that going to be our normal? I'm pretty much getting them ready to go, whoop, on out of here.
Emergency management says that you're not obligated, if you do fill out this form, to take the buyout. That wouldn't happen for months, maybe years down the road when you'd actually have to close on that form, on the agreement. Now, you have to fill out the form by Thursday, October 31st. If you don't have access to the internet, you can go to the Council Bluffs Public Library where they can assist you, or you can go online. We have that information on our website at 3newsnow.com. Reporting live in Council Bluffs, Jake Wasikowski, 3 News Now.
It's a common story you hear at Zorinsky Lake. You come back from a run, you find out your window's been broken out. Or, even worse, you find out your car's been stolen. But a new sign that you'll see around the park is hoping to address those issues, so things like this don't continue to happen. Like many others, Corey Gauthier is at Zorinsky Lake often.
I mainly just come here to get in a good run.
He steered clear of an ongoing issue, but his friends have been running into problems.
At least a couple friends who, over the years, sometimes in broad daylight, windows broken out and stuff like that.
And broken glass in the parking lots continue to tell that same story.
The parking lots are fairly isolated. There's not a lot of good sight lines, so once you take off running and get away from your car, it's a very easy target for the thieves to break into cars and unfortunately take a lot of stuff.
That's why Joe Sutter is working on a plot twist.
The whole community came together to make this happen, and we're excited. Again, $5,000 is going to make a good start towards cameras.
Joe and his son have partnered with Omaha Parks and Rec to raise money through races like this one for security cameras to be installed at the lake.
If we could get one bigger parking lot covered to where people feel safe at, and I think it's a great start.
The security system will cost a few $1,000s, which will take some time to be put into place.
The system that we're looking at doing is going to be high quality to where we can. We've already met with the police precinct. They'll be a part of this also. It's good quality footage to where they could do something with it.
Due to that cost, the city says it's unrealistic to think other parks will be equipped the same. But this partnership is a good step towards helping people at Zorinsky.
We have beautiful lakes, beautiful trails. We want people to be able to go out and recreate and then not have to worry about that when they get back.
It's worth a little bit of added security, in my opinion, to be able to help somebody like that if they can.
In Omaha, John Madden, 3 News Now.
The city is still finalizing the budget for how much everything will cost. Bench anticipates it will be more than $20,000. He also says the city will pay some costs, and the Sutters will need to host a few more races to raise enough money for the cameras. As of now, they hope to get them up and running in the spring of next year.
It's a change that most students won't notice, but it could help prevent a catastrophe.
We're not having information siloed into one area, that we're all at the same table talking towards solutions and coming up with ways to help.
Omaha Public Schools, along with Millard, Westside, and other Douglas County schools, will soon all be using the Safe to Help program. It'll be run by Boys Town, whose hotline is already used by some schools to anonymously report suspicious behavior. This new program will put all the schools into one system and allow that information to be widely shared.
We want the school to have a voice. We want law enforcement. We need mental health to be part of this picture. And as much as the students having a voice, again, to voice their concerns about their safety.
If the Safe to Help hotline is up and running by early next year, anybody will be able to call a number or use an app or website to report anything they think is a threat.
There's trained professional staff that are receiving those tips and directing those to the appropriate resources.
While schools around the country are looking for solutions to this problem, those running the program say schools in this program are ahead of the curve.
We are as far along, if not farther along, than a lot of the other schools.
Reporting in Omaha, John Kipper, 3 News Now.
The money for the program comes from the Omaha Police Department, who raised the money through grants and philanthropic organizations. Those in the program are looking to eventually loop in private schools in Douglas County as well.
This is David Bowowie.
Hi, David Bowowie.
If he seems a little anxious, it's because he is.
He doesn't show the best in his kennel. Sometimes he can be a little jumpy and barky in his kennel. And again, that's just the shelter environment with him.
Sarah Trant with the Nebraska Humane Society says she sees this when dogs aren't adopted out right away.
They end up getting a little more anxious. They start showing more rowdy behaviors like jumping up on people, mouthing. So like just play biting and grabbing your arms and hands with their mouth.
And it gets worse the longer they stay.
It is a little heartbreaking when you do see one of your long-term dogs that you've been working with for several months start to go on that decline.
But once David gets outside this building, things change. Trant says he'll get even better once he finds a forever family.
Once they're in a home, they get comfortable in the new home. They start to realize it is home and they're going to stay there. You usually see them become a lot more relaxed and just turning into really great dogs.
David is a work in progress.
Sit.
Sit. He's not perfect. But if you get to know him,
Yay!
he could be
good boy.
Perfect for you.
He's also a really good snuggler. For more information on the type of home David would do best in, go to our website at 3newsnow.com.
Well, district play begins tonight in high school volleyball. Bellevue West hoping to earn a spot at state for the first time in 13 years. And the T-Birds will rely on a senior who's had to overcome more struggles off the court than on it.
Oh!
Jackie Apel always serves up a smile on the court. The Bellevue West senior serves her team even better.
She's there for her teammates at any cost. She's
I just love her.
We cannot end like that.
I think that she gets it honestly from her father. She has always been goal-oriented.
Yeah, it's usually right there. We always used to play together. He definitely made me who I am today.
Jackie's father, Brad, served in the Air Force and made several deployments overseas while Jackie and her brother were growing up, forcing him to miss many of her matches.
I just loved seeing him there all the time when he could come. He always told me to just like pursue what I wanted to do, and his dream for me was to go to college for volleyball.
In January of 2018, Brad was diagnosed with liver cancer. At the time, doctors thought he could beat it. But then that July, just days after Jackie's 16th birthday, the prognosis suddenly changed.
They told him that he only had a couple months to live, and we had thought that he was getting better, but didn't, unfortunately.
Jackie would visit her dad nearly every day after school, until September 30th, 2018, when Master Sergeant William Bradley Apel passed away at the age of 45.
It was devastating. Been married to him for 27 years. He was all that I knew.
It definitely affected how I played, just because that was always on my mind.
None of our girls have lost somebody, that close to them, and just seeing how all of them came together and were there to support her. It was a really special moment, but it was really hard for all of us.
While Jackie's had plenty of up and down days on the court since, one of the toughest might have come earlier this month on her senior night, when her dad's picture appeared on the video board.
One of my first thoughts to my mom was, I was like, my dad would be so proud of me, and I just wish he was here to see it.
It was very sombering because, it's just, he would have wanted to be there for her for this special day.
Jackie's playing days, however, won't come to an end this fall, as she's earned the chance to play collegiately starting next year at Bellevue University.
I feel like I go out there with more passion and more I want to work harder.
I love that picture of you guys. I know he's looking down on her and just extremely proud of her and just rooting her on.
I just don't think it's right that we're putting these players through so much, that we're asking them to do a lot to entertain us, to make money for the university, for the NCAA, but they don't get to benefit financially from any of that.
It's time for the athletes to get paid. That's what Senator Hunt is going to be saying to the unicameral when the next legislative session begins in January. This comes after the NCAA announced Tuesday that they will soon permit students participating in athletics the opportunity to benefit from the use of their name, image, and likeness in a manner consistent with the collegiate model. So Hunt wants to open the door legally for players to get paid when businesses use their name, image, or likeness, while also remaining on scholarship.
A scholarship is very valuable, but I just don't think that it comes close to being fair compensation for the value that they bring to universities and institutions, to the money that they make for the NCAA, and also the great physical cost that athletes have in doing that performance and playing the game.
Nebraska Athletic Director Bill Moose sent 3 News Now a statement saying, "We are closely monitoring the latest information and discussions regarding the use of a student-athlete's name, image, and likeness. We appreciate that the NCAA has provided guiding principles and is taking steps to address this on a national basis. We will continue to engage with the Big Ten and NCAA on this important topic." Seems like Nebraska state senators will need convincing. State Senator Robert Clements says he hasn't made a firm conclusion, but his first impression is to keep the status quo.
I'd rather they kept their amateur status, and they're getting most of them getting a full scholarship to get an education, and right now I don't support the idea.
Others, like Senator John McCollister, say they need more information, but he does acknowledge there is problems with the current system.
Some athletes that may be trying to raise a family, and it's difficult for them to do that with the arrangement they have with the athletic department.
Ultimately, Hunt, who represent parts of Midtown, Benson, and Dundee, thinks she could convince her more conservative colleagues.
This is essentially a free market bill, so I don't see why this is something that conservatives couldn't support. It gives athletes the ability to make money off their own hard work, and it lets the market decide what it is that they're going to make.
Now, Hunt also says the bill wouldn't cost the states or the university any additional money, as it would be up to private business to pay the athletes. Reporting in studio, John Kipper, 3 News Now.
For all your actions, your sacrifice, your dedication, sir, I want to say thank you.
It's an event 75 years in the making.
It really is a special day here that we get to share honoring one of our great Americans.
From Omaha Beach, Normandy, to Omaha, Nebraska. Meet Edward Morissette, a 96-year-old with a lifetime of stories.
It was difficult for our boat to get into the shore, and when it did, we jumped out into water up to our chest.
But the one that stands out the most is back on D-Day in World War II, as he and many others stormed the beach in France in 1944.
The firing from the shore was so bad, there was a concrete block on the shore, and I dived behind that. And that's the only thing that saved me.
Now in 2019, Morissette is being honored for his service with France's highest distinction.
A gentleman like Mr. Morissette, he was 17, 18 years old, and he risked everything for America's freedom, but also for France's freedom.
Morissette was presented with the French Legion of Honor from the French government, who say France as we know it today wouldn't be the same had there been a different outcome in World War II.
We are grateful, the French people is grateful, and our gratitude is forever.
What can I say? I'm at a loss for words.
Morissette says this award is special because it's not only just for him, but for the countless others who didn't make it off the beach.
This one, to me, is for all of the guys, not just for me.
In Omaha, John Madden, 3 News Now.
And we thank him and so many others for their service. Morissette, who still lives in Omaha, says he enjoys going to breakfast with his friends and watching the show Blue Bloods.
For those in the LGBTQ+ community, feelings of isolation are nothing new. It can be even worse for those who've been to prison.
Nebraska now, per capita, is the second most overcrowded prison system in the country.
An organization nearly 15 years in the making is helping people in that community transform their lives.
Black and Pink is the largest organization in the United States that's supporting LGBTQ+ folks and people who are living with HIV and AIDS who are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated.
Dominique Morgan recently became the organization's national director. Thanks to years of work and a grant from the Equality Fund, Black and Pink will open its first home in early 2020.
We're doing work that, one, makes sure that when they get out, that they stay out, and two, that while they're out, they're being elevated to leadership spaces, that they're getting access to education, and they're being positioned in careers that can really change their lived experience.
Morgan spent nearly a decade at the Tecumseh State Prison. He now proudly wears the number 56892 as a reminder.
Everyone has a 56892. Everybody has something that's happened in your life that can be a reason why you don't become your greatest self. And you have to choose. Sometimes it's go around it. Sometimes I got to climb over it with a boost. And sometimes you got to take a hammer to it and break it all apart.
5 people will get to call this place home off 45th and Marcy. Morgan named it the Leyden House after Jason Leyden, who started Black and Pink back in 2005.
I am overjoyed and overwhelmed with that honor, and I am thrilled to be able to support Dominique's leadership and to be part of something that is creating a world where people coming out of prison are going to be nurtured instead of just further controlled.
According to a 2015 study of more than 1,000 LGBTQ+ who were incarcerated, about 20% were homeless before going to prison.
What Leyden House is going to do is take away the gamble. Take away the odds of, well, you may make it, you may not make it. No, we're doing foundational work that really levels the playing field.
Morgan wants to break the cycle. 85% reported spending time in solitary confinement.
So many of our people are surviving through the worst things that one could ever possibly imagine. And they're coming through and coming forward with leadership, with vision, with the power of creating a world that we dream of.
Morgan says the Leyden House is full of light and will brighten lives.
When they get access to that light, to that hope, they're going to reflect it onto others. And we're really going to see this culture change of people stepping up, using their lived experience, their success, to create opportunities for success for others. And I'm so excited for that.
In Omaha, Sydney Gray, 3 News Now.
The Nebraska Huskers take on Purdue this week in West Lafayette, but linebacker Garrett Nelson had another challenge before battling the Boilermakers. getting through the hot seat on Fill in the Blank. This week, Phil Bergman sat down with a freshman from Scottsbluff about Halloween, rock bands, and received some tips on how to get buff in the gym.
Garrett, it's Halloween this weekend. What do you want to be for Halloween?
Like go rock star and cut it all up and make like pen tattoos or something like that.
What's your best rock star pose? If you had a rock star catchphrase, what would it be?
Probably be like, burn the gas or something super like cheesy like that.
Love it. If you could have any hairstyle, what would it be?
I would shave the sides like completely bald and just have really like long hair, but like in a mohawk. Look like a Viking and braid it up with cool stuff, you know?
You want to braid your hair?
Not like, you know, in a weird way, but just like, you know, make it look like I fought on like a beach or something with an axe.
Let's hear your best voice for voice acting.
Do Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Do the chopper. You gotta get your bicep pumps in. You gotta grab the 45s and squeeze and get a nice pump.
Are you a leg guy or an arm guy?
You always gotta feed the geese once in a while, but you know, obviously you don't want to be looking like an upside down Dorito. So you gotta do squats, man.
What generation do you wish you lived in?
If I was just gonna go for like a good time, probably like 70s, 80s, 90s.
I was gonna say, I feel like you'd vibe well in the 80s.
Yeah, for sure.
Cut off shirts, all that.
Cut off shirts. You got your red man hat. You got your mullets and beards and long hair, and people are walking around in jorts and stuff. I mean, it was a great time.
Who are your favorite bands?
Blink-182, Sum 41, Poison, Boston.
So you like that like 80s, 90s rock? We hear your best Pearl Jam impersonation?
I can do, you know, who's the lead singer, Creed?
Creed, yeah, let's hear your best Creed impersonation.
Can you take me higher?
He's like super, like, in his nose.
If you could meet an alien, what would you say to them?
If I could meet an alien? Do they speak English?
Yeah.
Try our burgers.
Try our burgers.
Try our burgers. Because, like, you know, I feel like they would be pretty taken back that you're on their spaceship, so you hand them some food and you have a conversation.
Hey, Garrett, thanks so much for joining me. This was
Fill in the Blank.
Like a fine wine, the winery has aged perfectly.
We have been operating the store for 33 years.
33 years of wine. 33 years of food.
This was a favorite lunch place for many people in the area.
One of the best Reubens in town.
33 years of memories. It's home to Jamie Frederick.
I've known nothing but the store my whole life.
Her father, Dave Dio, owned it.
For him, it was not just his job, it was his passion, his calling. He loved this.
On April 13th, Dave passed away after fighting a short illness.
Very emotional. It's been, sorry.
Everything changed for the family.
The store isn't more than him, you know, and the store can't necessarily continue on without him. It's too hard.
The winery will close its doors.
It was not an easy decision for us to make, but it was one we had to make.
For good. On Wednesday, even for the customers, it was like a home away from home.
We've been shopping here off and on for maybe 7, 8, 9 years.
Everyone is saying their goodbyes.
Thanks for stopping in.
It's been basically a continuous flow of customers who have come through since we announced that we were closing to share their memories.
As the Dios move on,
I will take time to be a mom and a grandma and continue with my career. And we will, like I said, try to carry on with our new norm.
The community will have to learn to live without Dave and their favorite wine shop.
We need to all be able to move on.
No matter how hard that may be. The family says that Dave Dio's legacy is his family, his charity Vin Nebraska that has raised over $6 million, and of course, the winery. Reporting in studio, Rudolph Sinaida, 3 News Now.
Here at 3 News Now, we've teamed up with the Alzheimer's Association to tell you about what they're doing to combat this life-changing disease. We've talked a lot in the past about resources for patients and caregivers. Today, we're talking about important research advancements. I'm joined now by Dr. Keith Fargo. Thank you so much for coming in to talk with us. You were in town for a UNMC symposium. And we want to talk specifically about this new promising news that came out relatively recently. Biogen is the medication.
Well, Biogen is the name of the company that is developing the medication. The medication has one of these long names that's impossible for people to pronounce, but it's aducanumab. And what this medication is it's an antibody against the amyloid plaques that are part of the Alzheimer's disease process. And what they announced just a couple of weeks ago is they had positive phase 3 clinical trial results, and they're looking now to submit this drug for approval to the FDA.
Why is this groundbreaking in some senses when it comes to Alzheimer's treatment?
It's absolutely groundbreaking. It's a game changer. The medications that we have for Alzheimer's disease today are what we call symptomatic medications. That means that they can treat your symptoms for a period of time. They may help you with your memory for a while, your thinking for a while, but they're not doing anything about the underlying disease, the underlying Alzheimer's disease that is causing those symptoms. So the plaques continue, tangles continue, you continue to lose brain cells, etc. But this new medication, if it's approved, would be the very first medication in history that actually slows down the process of the underlying Alzheimer's brain disease, potentially prolonging life. So not just treating the symptoms, but changing the course of the disease.
And this is able to come about because of the research that's been done to show the plaque specifically. I mean, it's really a process to learn about the disease so that you know how to treat it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So if you go back not too long ago, we didn't actually know who had Alzheimer's disease until after they passed away. We knew who had the symptoms of dementia because we could tell who was having problems with their memory and thinking. But we didn't know why, because there are many different reasons that people can have dementia. Alzheimer's is the most common, so most people who have dementia have it because of Alzheimer's, but you couldn't tell until a person passed away whether it was Alzheimer's or some other disease like Lewy body disease, frontotemporal degeneration, etc. But now we have new technologies that allow us to look inside the living brain to see who has Alzheimer's disease. That allows us to get the right people into clinical trials and test drugs that will actually slow that disease down specifically.
How long have you worked in this field?
About 6.5 years. But I've been a neuroscientist for about the past 15 years. Just moved over into Alzheimer's about 6 years ago.
And would you say even in that short amount of time, you've seen quite a bit of progress when it comes to how we're dealing with Alzheimer's disease?
Enormous progress. And a big part of that is the research investment that's been made, not just by the Alzheimer's Association, but by Congress as well. Funding for dementia science has increased from under $500 million a year to now $2.4 billion a year, just since I've been working at the Alzheimer's Association for 6 years. So we are entering now a golden age of dementia science, and we're getting ever closer to not just slowing the disease, but potentially even curing the disease or preventing people from developing it in the first place. It won't be too many more years until we're talking about Alzheimer's the way that people talk now about things like polio.
Wow, incredible. I know a lot of people watching this at home finding a lot of hope in your words today. So thank you so much for the research you're doing, and thanks for coming in today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
When police arrived at this apartment complex near 65th and Boyd just before 1 on Thursday afternoon, they found a 64-year-old woman and a toddler who had been stabbed.
The baby was awake and crying, but crying faintly, and the lady, I was the most worried for her because she was barely moving.
DeTwan Smith says he witnessed most of the crime. At one point, he came face to face with a possible suspect who police say ran from the scene after jumping out of a third-floor window.
He all discombobulated. No, he tried to get in my car. I cut that off. He went into the field. Then I was like, well, what's up with the window?
Smith then heard a faint cry coming from the apartment.
She was just sitting in a pool of blood, just bleeding out, barely making noise.
Then police arrived on scene. He says officers busted down the door and helped get the woman and baby out of the building and to an ambulance. Paramedics took Manu and 1-year-old Lily Hata to Nebraska Medicine. Both are expected to live. Smith calls it the most traumatic moment of his life, especially since he has children of his own.
That's probably why it's hitting my heartstrings so heavy. It's the saddest thing I've ever seen in real life.
The Keystone Pipeline leaks in northeast North Dakota. TransCanada, the owner of the line, estimates 9,000 barrels spilled in an area about half the size of a football field. TransCanada is still in the process of taking Nebraska land through eminent domain to build the Keystone XL.
No doubt there will be spills, and it's just kind of Russian roulette if it's going to be you and your family.
Brian Jordy represents more than 100 Nebraska landowners fighting against the KXL being built through their property.
I'm certainly concerned about the spill. It's the last major spill in 3 years. It's not an old pipeline. It's 10, 11 years old, so really concerned about the construction and the integrity of the pipeline.
In August, the Nebraska Supreme Court affirmed the Public Service Commission's decision approving a Keystone XL route that they never applied for. The Keystone Pipeline, different from the KXL, already runs through Nebraska. TransCanada says they're focused on recovering the oil spilled and making repairs. A gallon jug. We've all got them at home. Imagine 1 gallon being poured 380,000 times. About 400,000 gallons of tar sands and sludge poured in a field.
You know, farmers, ranchers, and tribes have been screaming at the top of our lungs, literally, that we don't want Keystone XL to be crossing the sandhills, which it still does, and shallow parts of the Ogallala Aquifer. This is exactly what we need to avoid and make sure that we don't allow this pipeline to happen.
TransCanada won't start on the KXL until at least the spring of 2020, but Jordy and Kleb are focused on stopping it because they say this isn't the first time the pipe has broken, and it's a sign to come for the KXL. Reporting in Omaha, Jake Wazakowski, 3 News Now.
Basically a recipe for creating a dictatorship here in Bellevue.
City Council member Pat Shannon is not mincing his words. The proposed ordinance would open the door for council members and the mayor to be removed from office for misconduct, which can be anything from leaking information from a closed session to sexual harassment. If it's a council member removed, Mayor Rusty Hike would appoint someone to take their place.
The mayor gets to appoint one of his buddies, and now you're just going to have a bunch of rubber stampers on the council letting the mayor do whatever he wants.
But Mayor Hike says that's not his intent. He says there's been several recent incidents of bad behavior by council members, but the city has no teeth to do anything about it.
There's several circumstances, and again, we've written letters, we've talked to the individual, and it keeps happening. So that's what brought it to our attention. Hey, there's not a next step. How do you hold somebody accountable?
Here's how the process would work. Charges against an elected official would be filed to the city administrator. If it's deemed worthy of removal, a resolution would go to the council, and then a hearing date would be set. After that, they'd need a unanimous vote from the rest of the council to remove the person from office.
If somebody does make a sexual harassment against somebody else, and we can't talk about that in the public, but if somebody gets disciplined for it, it comes out into the public for a hearing with the council members, so it does open it up, so it's totally transparent.
Formal hearing would be a public setting. It wouldn't be a closed session type deal.
Correct.
But it seems part of the hearing could be behind closed doors. The ordinance reads, these matters may be held in closed session upon the majority vote and approval of the remaining council members and mayor. In a follow-up text message from the mayor, Hike says, if there is something sensitive, that portion may go into closed session. Reporting in Bellevue, John Kipper, 3 News Now.
Recent robberies have shaken up the local area.
And it does seem like it's kind of a recurring thing right now.
The most recent, 4 robberies late Wednesday night. 3 in Omaha, 1 in Bellevue, all in the span of 2 hours. The first robbery happened at 9:45 p.m. in Omaha at the Family Dollar on 24th and Leavenworth.
A male entered the store and demanded money while displaying a handgun.
Then at 10:19 p.m., a similar story for the Phillips 66 convenience store on 59th and Sorensen Parkway.
A convenience store worker here at the Phillips 66 gas station did not want to be on camera, but told me that late last night, 2 employees were just finishing up closing up the store when a young male entered the convenience store, threatened the employees with a handgun, and got away with nearly $700 of cash and other merchandise.
At 11:40 p.m., a third robbery at the Speedy Mart on 132nd and Grover. Again, a male demanded money and at gunpoint got away with almost $200 in cash. While the robberies all sound similar, the Omaha Police Department says they are not connected.
And at this point, investigators actually believe these are all individual robberies that are not related.
The fourth Bellevue robbery is also thought not to be related. In the midst of all the robberies Wednesday night, OPD declared a citywide special attention broadcast on any 24-hour convenience stores in the city.
That was more of just a notice to officers that, hey, and we've had multiple robberies tonight, so keep an eye on convenience stores.
At this time, these robberies are also not thought to be connected to this past weekend's robberies. 4 different Omaha gas stations were robbed in a span of 45 minutes.
That's under investigation at this point. I don't believe they are.
OPD says they are working with businesses to help prevent future robberies. Reporting in Omaha, Rudolph Snyder, 3 News Now.
What is it about ghost stories that just kind of gets under our skin and you begin to question, is it real? Well, there's quite a few urban legends here in Nebraska. And we're going to look at one where you might hear the screams of 7 sisters.
By day, this country road outside of Nebraska City is like any other. The land is farmed, trees dot the landscape, unassuming. But this road, some say, has a dark history, one of murder, savagery. This is the 7 Sisters Road.
There are many different variations of the legend, but the main one is that in the late 1800s, early 1900s, a father, for some reason, got upset with his 7 daughters, and he hanged them individually on hills, on trees on each of the 7 hills that are on this road that lead down to the Missouri River.
When the sun goes down, the pitch-black, eerie night becomes a playground for restful spirits. 7 sisters reliving their fate, attacked by their evil father over and over again.
Then you hear things. You hear screams, you hear moans, you maybe catch a glimpse of white nightgowns in the distance or lights fluttering. There's all sorts of stories that happen.
A word of caution if you dare to make the trip. The spirits won't let you pass free of charge.
The car comes to a stop, and then you get out and pop the hood, see what's wrong. If you're brave enough to get out of a car while you're parked on 7 Sisters Road.
Braving the road late at night, 3 News Now investigators had some experience of our own.
What was that?
Strange sounds coming from our microphones.
It was like a oop.
Fully charged batteries dying. It made our skin crawl. Local lore comes in different forms. Some say it's not even sisters, but an evil monster or a bear. It really depends on who you talk to.
There was always some kind of a saying, there's spooks down there and everything else.
The story evolves. The legend spreads, gaining infamy.
What do you think about this being considered the most haunted road in America?
Well, it could be. It could be.
3 News Now investigators tried to find out the real story. Local historian Tammy Parch delved into the lore.
There would be record of this. You cannot murder or have 7 daughters in one family killed without being some sort of record. Nebraska City had a newspaper starting in the 1850s, more than one.
But maybe there's a reason for that. Perhaps local leaders back then didn't want their peaceful small community known in such an infamous way, known for a horrendous murder. It could have been scrubbed from the history books. It's all speculation. For folks today, they see and hear what they want. Visit at your own risk.
I'm not going to go out of my way to come down here at night. I don't want to say that I believe in this sort of thing because that's kind of silly, but just in case.
Reporting from the other side, Jeff Van Sant, 3 News Now.
And it's not just the kids and parents who are celebrating Halloween. Plenty of pet owners will be celebrating with their furry family members. And I sat down with Pam Weiss with the Nebraska Humane Society to talk about the biggest mistakes pet owners make on Halloween.
I think that a lot of times pet owners think, oh, my pet's gonna love this because it's such a fun holiday, and it's really scary for pets. If you see something that you don't recognize, like somebody in a big Frankenstein mask, or somebody with flashing lights, or something that you just don't understand, you're gonna understandably be a little bit more scared. So pets that haven't been dressed up or haven't seen their owners looking dressed up sometimes can be really frightened by all of the noises, the doorbell ringing, people dressed up. It can be super scary. So I think that's the number one mistake that people make.
Mm-hmm. And what about costumes? I mean, is there any guidelines as far as what you can and can't put on a pet? I've seen some really interesting costume choices.
Right, yeah. We all have, I think.
Yeah, right?
Sometimes you're wondering about that, like, what were they thinking there?
Yeah.
I think that what you want to do with pets is, first of all, make sure that your animal is comfortable dressing up. So if you've got a little teeny dog that you normally put dresses on, or the kids dress up, or that type of thing, absolutely I think that you can then dress them up for Halloween. If not, you may want to try to get them used to getting dressed up. Maybe it's something that is more like a coat that they would normally wear anyway. But the first thing that you want to think about is that it fits appropriately, it doesn't impede their movement, it doesn't impede their sight. If you put a hat on him and he shakes it off, and you put it on him again and he shakes it off, maybe leave it off.
Let him be.
Super cute, right?
Yeah.
Because it's going to be an uncomfortable time anyway, and a very scary time. And so then when you add, oh, and now we're going to wrap you up in something that you're not comfortable with, that can really create some issues for a pet. And then you may set them up for failure. You may set them up to be very scared, snappy, uncomfortable, and you don't want to do that at a time when it's supposed to be happy and joyful for you and your kids.
What about when you're having kids trick-or-treating and you're not sure if your dog is okay with costumes or kids or the doorbell going off? How do you know if they'll be okay, or if you should just keep them in the bedroom?
You know, that's a really good point and a very good question to ask, because a lot of dogs get excited by the doorbell, so they're going to want to jump on the kids, or they're going to want to see the kids. And then if the kids come and they're in scary outfits, well, then they may be scared. So rather than setting them up for failure, you may want to keep them in the room for the first couple dings of the doorbell and see if things work out okay. If they do, great. If not, then put him away, maybe in a back room where the doorbell isn't quite as loud. Give him something to do, like a frozen Kong or a puzzle toy or his favorite bone, something like that, so that he's in an area where he's enjoying himself, and just get him away from kind of the ruckus of the Halloween holiday. It's a great way to make sure that he's comfortable, that you don't have to constantly try to make sure he's not bolting out the door, and to make sure that he stays with you, because you're not going to want him running away and having to come reclaim him.
Another thing Weiss recommends is having your dog on a leash around the house in case they start to act up or try running out the door.
Just kidding. It's Maya Science with Channel 3. Now this Halloween, there's only one place to be to get the full horror experience, and that's the Monster Club downtown. Not only do they have good food and drinks, but some pretty scary company. Omaha's Old Market now has a spooky pub and grill to eat, where you can get some monster food and witch's brew. This is probably the scariest teepees we've done. Okay, there's monsters everywhere. From horror film characters like Pennywise, Dracula, Frankenstein, and Jason.
We have the Gremlin, who is exposing himself in the movie.
The Monster Club, located near 13th and Howard, looks like it's decorated for Halloween, but this is what it looks like year-round.
It's definitely more museum than haunted house. That's really what we were going for. We didn't want anybody coming here thinking there's going to be an actor coming to their table and interrupting their dinner, or that their kids could go to the bathroom without having to worry about someone jumping out and scaring them. It's none of that. It's
from the most intricate details.
We have the Shining carpet.
Oh.
If you've seen the movie The Shining.
Yes, I have. I didn't even notice. To the collector's items and lighting.
And don't miss our human skull chandeliers,
yeah,
which we make from skulls of the people who give us bad reviews.
There you go. Well, for the record, I love you guys. The eerie music and horror movies playing inside the haunted castle setup offers a creepy yet cozy ambience for everyone. Hello, ladies.
Hello. Wow.
Just kidding. It's me, Maya. Even grandmas.
There's so much to look at.
It's a museum, essentially.
It is.
My grandkids are going to be jealous that Grandma's here with her friends. I think it's fun. It's not that scary. Well, it depends on who you sit next to.
Here, not only do you get a unique dining experience, but their food is fantastic. Back in the kitchen, the sauces are made from scratch, and all of their meats are fresh and local.
Every burger has an individual shape. You kind of get that cool, like monster
kind of theme on the burger. So that's the reason why we do it like that, and they come out great. Special seasoning for here only.
We're very burger friendly, but we're actually very vegan friendly as well.
It's a joint where you can devour ghoulish burgers like their signature monster burger or their chainsaw burger.
You might need a chainsaw for this one. Is that why you guys named it the chainsaw? I dream about food.
Yeah.
I really do. Every dream I have, there's a food in it. I will be dreaming about this tonight.
That's
for
good,
sure.
isn't it?
Yeah, this is that sauce and the bacon and the onion ring combined. Perfection.
The prices aren't scary either. The double patty monster burger is $11.99, while their chainsaw burger is $10.99. Their menu also includes salads, sandwiches, and other bar food. For after hours, when the monsters come out, their signature cocktail drinks are also themed, like the Witch's Brew, Dracula's Mule, the Mummy, and the Brains. They all come prepared in unique glasses.
You know how you sometimes feel like someone's just watching you eat?
Yeah.
That's how I feel with this guy, right?
Chucky, he's such a bad influence.
He really is.
Yeah, he's just a naughty boy. Right, Chuck? Huh?
Oh,
We're in or not?
Okay,
we're in?
I'm gonna leave him there. 'Cause he's staring at me.
He loves curly fries.
With any restaurant, the most important thing is to have good food, of course, but all the decoration, all the little knickknacks here, the salt and pepper shakers, stuff like that, it goes to show that these people really love horror movies.
No, I like it very, very much. I want to come back again.
And she's not a Halloween person.
I don't like the Halloween, but I like this.
And the staff created a signature drink for tonight's Halloween festivities, and anyone who goes tonight in full costume will get 20% off of their bill. Now, if you dare, check out the Monster Club. You can find it near 13th and Howard. It's open every day except for Monday, and those hours are on your screen.
Mold, roaches, and mice all over. Electrical and gas problems that could have killed tenants. That's what city inspectors found when they served an inspection warrant at the Yale Park Apartments in September 2018. Friday in Douglas County Court, prosecutors asked to drop 4 of the 99 counts of property maintenance violations against landlord Kay Anderson. The judge grants it.
I think the 4 counts are pretty much irrelevant. I'm sure they just found errors in them. The whole process has been littered with errors, and we'll prove a lot more errors as we go, but I expect that the whole thing is still going to be dismissed.
The bigger dilemma is the inspection warrant. Judge Grant Forsberg questioned why the warrant said Anderson didn't give the city consent to enter the apartments when Inspector Scott Lane testified he never asked the landlord for permission. The law says in order to get a warrant, they have to be denied consent for an inspection.
It certainly wasn't refused. So according to the statute, that warrant should have never been authorized, and it's our request, which the judge is considering seriously, as far as we can tell, that it be thrown out along with the case.
Anderson says if city inspectors went through the right process instead of jumping the gun, they wouldn't have cost taxpayers so much money taking him to court.
The refugees wouldn't have been removed from their apartments. They're all moving back now. We have 50 units rented. We just filled one building this week with all previous tenants. We're happy to have them back. We'll get there.
Both sides will make written briefs by November 8th. The judge has taken it under advisement and will make a decision after that. Reporting in downtown Omaha, Jake Wazakowski, 3 News Now.
Hundreds of high school students from the Omaha metro area filled the Strauss Performing Arts Center at UNO on Friday. During the public service symposium, they asked former Defense Secretary and Senator Chuck Hagel tough questions.
Do you think that President's plan on immigration is beneficial to the world's economy and society as a whole?
Budget spending on military, even though more than half of the countries are our allies.
What do you think is the future of public service in the United States?
Public service's future is unlimited as long as there's a country like the United States that keeps moving forward.
Hagel told students they're the future of the United States and encouraged public service.
Boy, there's just no country on earth that has it like we have it. And I think a lot of that is our citizens know that and always are putting something back because of public service.
Hagel talked foreign policy and being a politically divided nation. Students say they appreciate his honesty and perspective.
I think he's been honest in all of his answers that he's given today, but he had a really thorough explanation to my question.
He didn't try to persuade
teenagers to believe because he wants the teenagers to have a voice. He gave them reasons and just kind of helped lead people in the right path.
She says she hopes to emulate his dedication to public service.
Seeing someone who is so passionate about it inspires me.
In Omaha, Stephanie Nolte, 3 News Now.
13 students received Public Service Scholar Awards during the symposium. As a part of their award, they also earned a scholarship to UNO. We have a list of the award recipients on our website, 3newsnow.com.
Back in 2015, Carrick Detweiler knew he wanted to fight fire from the air, eventually realizing he could do it with drones.
That's kind of how I got started. We designed the first 4 or 5 of these systems, prototypes, in the lab at UNO. And then, people started getting interested, and Carrick said, hey, would you like to come make a run at this and try to make a business out of it?
After about 2 years in business, Drones Amplified is selling their equipment to the U.S. Forest Service and Department of Interior, among others, giving them a payload that they can attach to a drone, then using an app to control the system, and strategically start fires to starve them out and stop them from spreading.
We're actually saving lives. So, it's really great to see our systems in use and to know that we're increasing the safety for the firefighters.
Now, starting fires to stop fires is not a new idea. For years, they've been doing it with helicopters. But Detweiler says his remote-controlled system is much safer than manned helicopters and cheaper.
Helicopters cost thousands of dollars an hour to operate, whereas our system is really inexpensive and easy to operate.
Here's how it works. A trained firefighter will plan out a route and other specifics for the drone to go. Once it's in the air, it uses these balls that looks similar to fishing bobbers to do the work.
We then basically puncture these balls and inject a second chemical, and after about 30 to 60 seconds, there's a chemical reaction that causes a small fire with these.
Currently, there's nobody else who's making a drone-based aerial ignition platform. So right now, we're the only game in town.
Right now, they can fly for a few miles in around 30 minutes, and as the company grows, they're looking to up the scale of their product.
So if we could get a type of a system that could fly for multiple hours and carry 10,000 of these ignition spheres, that would be game-changing for this industry.
Reporting in Lincoln, John Kipper, 3 News Now.
It's Fire Chief Bill Bowe's least favorite time of year.
Space heaters, a fire chief's worst thing, probably.
Time to fire up those furnaces, chimneys, and space heaters. But without proper care and maintenance, all 3 can be a fire hazard and safety hazard, especially furnaces.
First time you fire it up, it's going to be a little musty. We want to make sure there's no problem, so we always encourage people to have that furnace checked.
Alex Copen of SOS Heating and Cooling is performing an annual checkup on this furnace.
Having it checked before you turn it on for the first time just to make sure that it's safe.
The threat of carbon monoxide leaks from old furnaces is very real.
We've been preaching smoke detectors for ages and ages, and people are generally getting pretty good about having smoke detectors. Now we want to go to the next step and get a carbon monoxide detector.
You can't smell carbon monoxide, and you can't see it, making those leaks deadly. It's a good thing Alex checked up on this furnace when he did.
This heat exchanger does have a seam that's starting to split. So that's what we're talking about here. That's why we're doing this.
And those pesky space heaters?
Too often is space heaters used in bedrooms. Blanket falls near the space heater and then that blanket catches on fire.
Make sure to keep them on the floor and that no immediate objects are around it. And lastly,
get that chimney checked because the creosote builds up inside of it. Eventually that creosote can catch on fire.
To make sure that your home doesn't become victim of a dangerous fire or carbon monoxide leak. Reporting in La Vista, Rudolph Sinaida, 3 News Now.
And carbon monoxide leaks are tricky to detect. A lot of people think they have the flu because they have similar symptoms like body aches and headaches. That's why it is so important to make sure your home is updated with proper carbon monoxide detectors.
Stay connected at 3newsnow.com.